It is 8 minutes after the hour, 29 degrees in downtown Sylacauga on a frosty Friday morning, the 19th day of December. Sylacauga City Councilman Joe Hogan joins us this morning. Joe, good morning to you, sir, and Merry Christmas.
Well, good morning to you, and Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah.
And I thank you for letting me be on the show.
You're more than welcome being here. And of course, I always look forward to working with our city leaders in Sylacauga and surrounding areas and promoting the particular cities. And this morning it's the city of Sylacauga, and you guys work session, council meeting this week. And you know, for people who think that, hey, we just come in here and we do these council meetings and we do these work sessions, a little bit more goes into it than that, huh, Joe?
It is very detailed. It's a very extensive job that you get paid very little for, but you don't do it for the payday. Matter of fact, if I average it out, I think I probably make about 80 cents an hour on the job, but you don't do it for that. You do it for the betterment of your family and your fellow citizens.
If you had to do all over again, this is first term city councilman, as it is with the others. Mayor Murphy, of course, was a city councilman for some 4 terms before he was elected mayor. If you had to do all over again, would you step into the fray again? I
absolutely would. I've enjoyed it. For a long time, my job has been in public service. And this is public service. And I like it a lot. It gives me the opportunity to meet and greet people that I don't know. It also gives me the opportunity to make a difference in other people's lives. That's part of a city government.
Joe Hogan, Sylacauga City Councilman, our guest this morning. And 2 years you have, along with several other councilmen, have gone to Texas for meetings there. What do you try to glean out of these meetings, and why Texas?
Well, our city is part of the National League of Cities, which is sort of it's a group, sort of like a membership. And and it's not in Texas every year either, Jimmy Dale. It goes from one city to another. And last year was in Washington. Next year will be in Tennessee, followed by Pittsburgh, and then Charlotte, North Carolina. But what it is, you get to go represent your city. And what they do there, they have delegates that are elected officials that elect officials of the National League of Cities. But it's more than that. They offer mobile workshops, committee meetings, seminars, all these things that provide information to you, which help you create resources, develop your network of resources to progress the city. I mean, there's things happening from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. And for those people that think it's a fun, paid vacation, it's far from that. As a matter of fact, the week that I was out there, the only time we had for sightseeing would have had to have been after, say, 9 o'clock at night, or maybe the 2 or 3 hours the day before we left to come back. I mean, it's very, very extensive. I don't think that if you're going to send, one person cannot go out there and bring back the knowledge that is given to you. There's so many things to do at multiple times. As a matter of fact, I made some totals here. There were 17 mobile workshops, 15 seminars, and 42 sessions and workshops offered. And these are things that you go learn what's working in other cities. You come up with new resources, new avenues to bring things back to Sylacauga. Some of the things that they offered us in the workshops were roles of elected officials during an emergency, crisis, or disaster, leadership for civic government, blueprint for a great small city, community branding and marketing, municipal budget 101, animal services, best practices, strategies for long-term fiscal health, just pages of classes to go to. And all that it does is it provides you knowledge. It's almost like going to school. And the more you learn, the more you can bring back, the more you can institute here and directly benefit your city and
now,
citizens.
Not only you went, there were several other councilmen went as well.
Councilman Shannon Darby, Tom Roberts went, myself, and Clerk Trish Carden went.
With the budget just being approved and dollars at a premium, not just in Sylacauga, but everywhere, it seemed like the budget crunch is continuing to tighten and tighten. Was any considerations, I'm assuming, given to this? And what was the cost of a trip as such as this?
Well, every year we have the budget, inside the budget is built in training expenses, things like this. Now, we don't always go, not everybody goes. It depends on where it is and whether we think it's going to be worth it to go, but it is part of the budget, which is paid for by myself and you and all the other citizens. if it were a paid vacation, then it wouldn't be the right thing to do. But having been twice now and been to the Alabama League of Municipalities versions of this as well, I think everybody should go. If you're on the council at some point in time, everybody should go. I think at least 3 or 4 should go every time that it's offered. The cost varies. It depends on where you're going to from one year to the next. But there's registration fees and you have some travel expenses. But it is all budgeted. And I would like to thank the citizens who pay their taxes that allow us to go to this, because as you see from some of these titles, we try to bring back things that work. And this particular meeting, as well as last year's, we have some things that we're working on right now that we learned from that, some resources and we made.
Mm-hmm. Joe Hogan, Sylacauga City Councilman, our guest this morning. End of the year, calendar year, but the fiscal year budget has just started. And any surprises to you? And what is your feeling on the budget that was just voted in by the Sylacauga City Council?
Well, I would like to say that 2 years ago when we took office, we inherited a budget that was negative. We had over $400,000 deficit to start with. The first year we made up a good bit of that. This past year we made up a lot of that. As a matter of fact, I think we finally overcome that original deficit. Mm-hmm. We had a big revenue surplus this past year that we did not project. So it made it a little bit easier to do some of the things that needed to be done over the course of the year. There's always things that cost money that you can't budget for. So when we prepare a budget, we have to take into consideration these things like training, travel expenses, police department, fire department, some other city jobs. But there's all kinds of things that are built into this that we think we're going to spend. And it's better to try to be a little bit conservative. But the way the budget was presented, we spent about 6 or 7 working hours on it, reviewing it, going over all the details, going over all the numbers, finding some errors in the minus here, finding some errors in the plus here, trying to make sure that everything is accurate. And we came up with a surplus, which is good. So for 2 years now, we finished the year up. In this particular budget, we project a surplus, and that's what you want. You don't want to go in the hole. You want to try not to get into your reserves as much as possible either, although we had to the first year. But it's been very interesting. It's also been very educational.
Joe, who prepares a budget and who presents it to the Sylacauga City Council?
Well, it's the mayor's budget. Mm-hmm. The mayor will get with all the department heads. He has a process he goes through to put the budget together. And then he will present it to us, hopefully by the start of the fiscal year, which is the 1st of October. And we'll look over it, review it. Not micromanage the mayor. That's not our job to micromanage his job. But we look at it and try to come up with some ideas, different ways of things that we can do things. Sometimes going to these trips gives us better ideas, gives us other avenues that we didn't have as far as budgeting goes. So we look at that, come up with an approval, vote on it, yes or no, and it's done.
Grants are certainly important, as evidenced by the demolition of East Highland School that's going to be taking place.
Well, East Highland has been a big issue because it's a safety problem. East Highland, if anyone has been over there, you know that there's some issues with that, and it's a liability that we need to correct. Fortunately, we've been able to secure some grants to do some things. Last year, I think the year before, we demolished some houses, some nuisance and abatement issues we've taken down, and we've been able to secure a grant to do the same thing with East Highland. Now, having said that, once East Highland, which is a historical place, is torn down, we'd like to put something else there. And I speak for all the councilmen when I say this, as well as the mayor. We want to put something else there, not just a plot of green grass, but something that is a memorial to what East Highland stood for. I went to school there. It's there's quite a few groups that have tried to come in and do some things with it, but it's just not feasible to do because of the money that's going to take to renovate and use that school. So once we get it torn down, we can come up with some ideas what we're going to do. If nothing else is to be built there for use, sort of like a center or a school, then we'll come up with what the community in that area would like, what we can afford to do, but something that's going to pay tribute to the history and heritage of East Highland.
Sylacauga City Councilman Joe Hogan, our guest this morning. Correct me if I'm wrong on the numbers, but some ballpark $69,000 earmarked for a feasibility study on the road paving, street paving in our city. And I mentioned this to Rocky, who's the president of Sylacauga City Council, earlier when he was in early in the week, that we got to come up with some money somewhere. These streets are not going to continue. They're not going to get better. They're going to continue to get worse.
Well, if you don't have enough surplus in your budget to do what needs to be done, then you have to find ways. It's a little bit different than just cutting back here, dropping off some employees, doing some things like that. Paving and asphalting is expensive. So there's things that we've got to do, and some of the things we're working on right now is the CDG project, where used to when you want to have a street paved, there was a process on deciding what streets needed to be paved on the list of priorities. Sometimes it was all the councilmen and mayor riding around in the van and making a list. Well, we're going to spend some money with CDG, which is going to come up with they have a system. They go out and evaluate all of our streets as well as the drainage issues. There's different things that they offer. So the idea for us is to go ahead and get the list of all the cities and the streets, have them prioritized and know where we need to go when we start. The next thing is, how do we get that? Well, that's what we're working on, and that's what some of these Austin road trips or Seattle road trips, different things allow us to do. Find out what other cities have done, the grants that they have received for things like this that we may not have known about. Because after all, we don't have a full-time job in this. So it's not like we can sit at a desk and spend all day on the internet or spend all day on the phone trying to find different avenues, different resources. We do what we can as we can, but so many of these trips are huge in developing a network and giving resources to us. There are some things going on this year. We're still working on trying to put a plan together to get all the streets repaved and asphalted that we can. We're still looking at the sportsplex and that whole idea, which isn't just ball fields. It's for you who may not go play ball. There may be a lake and a walking track out there that you want to walk around. Maybe go out there for an amphitheater that your church has a concert
Joe,
at.
let me interject this here for people who are watching today, and I'm sure you've heard this because we've been dealing with this particular subject for quite some time, a sportsplex. It's pie in the sky. Nothing is ever done. We're not going to do anything, so why continue to talk about it?
Well, you got to start somewhere. If you don't talk about it, nothing is ever done. But we actually have a couple of different groups that we're meeting with currently, a plan that we're currently working on to try to provide this, a resource that I have from Austin, which is a whole entirely new concept in this. And I think that particular avenue is a great way for us to get it. There's a few things that we're working on. People are always talking about jobs and shopping and food. Well, we've just recently gotten our version of a third contract back with a development group to possibly put in the shopping center over by Walmart. I can't say the cities or I can't say the shops and the stores that they normally deal with that could possibly come in because there's nothing guaranteed. But we're working on that, the sportsplex, the paving and drainage issues. There's a lot of things they're working on.
Are these doable, Joe? 10, 15 years in our lifetime, are some of those doable?
Absolutely. We're right around the corner from getting a lot of things done. We spent the first 2 years cleaning up a lot of things, overcoming a negative deficit budget that, to be honest, has taken 2 years to overcome. But I think by the end of year 3, you're going to see a lot of things change. And whether any of us even decide to come back and run again, this is something that's going to secure our future as citizens, not as councilmen. Nobody does this, or you're not supposed to be doing this to earn a vote for the next election. You're supposed to be doing this because this is your job today. And there's a lot of things that are going to happen at the end of this year. By the end of this year in year 3, we finally put together a plan to renovate the stadium. That's been a terrible, terrible eyesore. It was bad when I was there in the mid to late 80s. And that's been a huge thing. The city uses it, the county uses it, B.B. Comer uses it. I think we have a pretty good agreement in place right now with the county to help with that. We just passed a resolution to allow an election for the citizens to extend the school tax. Well, nobody's going to pay any more than what they're currently paying.
It's not a new tax.
No. It's just not going to end when it was going to. I think in 2024, 2025. So if you think about it, if it's not going to cost you anything, let's go ahead and extend it. Let's get that stadium cleaned up, repaired. We got a brand new school across the street. Now we put a new stadium across the street from it. There's a lot of things that are going to happen, and I think for the atmosphere that was created when we all ran for office and won, it was a new day. You know, it's a new change. Things are going to happen in Sylacauga, and it's taken us quite a while to get things cleaned up and get a plan and get things on the ball. And I think we're about to turn that corner and see a lot of progress this year.
Finally this morning, and we appreciate Joe joining us this morning, Sylacauga City Councilman Joe Hogan. 2 years now in on the job, and 2 more years to go before re-election time. Some hard knocks that you've learned on the job. You know, everybody's new. And you're working together, and from what I understand, it's a pretty good working relationship with the council members here in Sylacauga. But some things that you've learned through hard knocks and say, wow, you know, maybe things just don't move as quick as I thought they should, or something like that.
The government does not move at the pace I want it to. All right. Now, I'm an impatient person, and I like to start on something and get it done. Government, from top to bottom, from side to side, from front to back, is absolutely slow. And there's a lot of times I do not understand why it has to be that way. And in spite of that, I push and I push and I push to do this different. But there's so many key parts to this thing. This person's got to do their thing, and this person has to do their thing. And then you got to have all the timelines and the scheduling. You know, we meet twice, 2 work sessions a month, 2 council meetings a month, and in between there is a lot of work. If I'm working on something right now that I spend 3 days on, I may not be able to get it on the agenda for 3 or 4 meetings, not because there's not an open opportunity to work on it, but to come and take action on it. It just takes a lot of parts being put in the right place. I enjoy it. I don't know that I can ever speed government up, but I think if I can get enough things going all at one time, then more things will start hitting the table that we can progress. Now, as far as the hard knocks go, I like to satisfy people. I like to help people. I like to be at their service and be of service to them. Sometimes you can't do it at their speed. You know, all the elections are based on a majority. That majority is because you know and you understand you can't make everybody happy. It's the majority that you have to gain. Not everybody's happy with this decision. Not everybody hates this decision. Most of the times your personal opinion on something is how that decision relates to you. Mm-hmm. Maybe a good idea, but if it doesn't relate to you very well or benefits you, sometimes you might care less about it. So a lot of times we hear some knocks and some criticism by people that it's just not their way of doing things, and that's okay. Tell me your way of doing things. I'll tell you if it works, if it won't work. I'll take everything good out of it I can, and I'll try and apply it to everything that we do so that we can get the majority involved.
Joe, thanks for being with us this morning.
Jimmy Dale, I thank you very much for your time.
Merry Christmas to you.
Happy, and have a blessed one, Jimmy.
Oh, yeah. Sylacauga City Councilman Joe Hogan, our guest.